Benjamin Mushatama and Palisatawo on the move.
Every time somebody asks me if I would ever give up meat, my surname, by the way, is Tau, as you already know. But Tau, directly translated, Tau is a lion in the Setswana language. And I say to you, have you ever heard of a lion eating vegetables? No, lions eat meat. So that's just how much I love my meat. But actually, I do understand the importance of, a healthy diet and bringing in fruits and vegetables and grains as part of their diet. So whether it's for health reasons, environmental concerns, animal welfare, or spiritual beliefs, more and more people are actually choosing to put plants at the center of their plates. But what does that actually mean to go vegetarian, especially in the African context where I'm not the only one? Meat actually plays a big role in our meals. So is it possible to get all the nutrients you need without animal products? And how can families make the shift from sacrificing taste or nutrition for a more vegetarian outlook? We're chatting about this, going vegetarian, in today's fitness and nutrition corner here on The Move. We're joined by registered dietitian and vegetarian Talia Pillay. Talia, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you, Palisa, and hi to everyone.
Talia, I don't know. I've heard about vegetarians and vegans. I can't be convinced. But there is this one time where we had an African vegetarian meal here in our studios, and it tasted so good. I was in disbelief. So why do you think more and more people are really centering plant-based foods once again?
Yeah, so like you said, plant-based foods can be very, very tasty. But I think when we look at the way the world is moving right now, there's an increased amount of people that are moving towards vegetarianism. And like you said earlier, it's just so much it comes from, spiritual beliefs, but ethical reasons, in terms of animal welfare, in terms of sustainability for the earth. Vegetarian diets and vegan diets have been shown to be very sustainable. And I also think there's an aspect of health as we see a rise more in chronic diseases of lifestyles. There's more and more people that turn to become vegetarian or, as some people say, flexitarian, where they consume more vegetarian and plant-based diets.
Okay, I see. Flexitarian is also a term I'm hearing about for the very first time, but I'm sure we're going to unpack that as we go on. There are a lot of confusing information out there, right? Because if you decide to do one thing, especially for someone who's trying to look at like health reasons or just like changing the way that they eat, if you go online, they say, okay, be vegetarian, be vegan, it's going to be great for your health. And then someone else says, well, to have a balanced diet, you actually need the proteins and nutrition that meat come with. And so it can be very confusing to choose this particular lifestyle when there's so many contradicting information out there.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I think the key word that you said there was all about balance. When it comes to eating, no one shoe fits all. So it's really important that people look at their diet. When they look at their diet, they look at several different factors. Is it sustainable in all areas of their life? Is it sustainable in terms of cost? Culture is such a massive factor that comes into play when it comes to eating and choosing a lifestyle and diet that works for you. So it is very important that when it comes to choosing a diet, it needs to be sustainable in terms of balance. Having a balanced diet is so important. There's always this misconception that as a vegetarian that you don't actually get enough nutrients in, but especially protein, that's always the biggest misconception.
Yeah.
But it's so important that you consume a variety of different plant-based proteins in order to get your full amino acid profile. And you can actually get everything you need from a vegetarian diet. And of course, there are certain nutrients that would lack, such as your B12, your iron in some instances, your omegas. But there we do have options to supplement, and you can get it in the amounts that you need in. So it's all about looking at yourself, looking at your lifestyle, looking at your likes and dislikes. Nobody stays consistent with things they don't like, and balance is the most important thing.
I like speaking about likes and dislikes because it's actually one of the biggest reasons that we make particular decisions, right? We might know that a certain lifestyle or certain food is healthy or unhealthy for us, but simply because of our likes and dislikes, we choose to eat a particular way. So you might know that you need to lose weight for your own health, but you still take takeaways every day because that's just what you like. So once you've made that decision that, okay, I think I want to explore a more vegetarian lifestyle, you can't exactly just go to cold turkey and never eat meat again tomorrow. So where do you start?
So you have to find what is driving you to make the decision. That's such an important aspect about what's going to keep you motivated. Are you wanting to consume less animal products for ethical reasons, or is it a health reason that you're deciding this? It's always difficult to give up something. Cold turkey is definitely not the option or not the way to go, in my opinion, because you never see sustainable and consistent results with it. You can always start by, incorporating 1 or 2 meat-free days in your household and with yourself and your family. It's a really great way. And I don't know if many people have heard about it, but there's this massive movement called Meat-Free Mondays, where a lot of people, choose to go meat-free on a Monday. And you can start with 1 or 2 days and then slowly incorporate it into more meals and say, okay, today's a Wednesday, but we're going to do a vegetarian lunch and, consume some animal protein at dinner. So kind of giving you more of that flexitarian way of living so that you have more plant-based days and less animal protein days.
You know what's strange, Talia, is that Meat-Free Monday here in South Africa coincides with what we call Mogodu Monday. So are you going to go meat-free on a Monday, or are you going to go eat Mogodu on a Monday? These are two contradicting Monday trends that are taking place at the same time. But let's take a look at that word, flexitarian. Unpack what that means and how exactly you can start, making that a part of your lifestyle decision or your eating decisions.
So I think first let's look at the different types of vegetarianism that you sort of get, just for context. So you do get vegans who don't consume any sort of products that come from an animal whatsoever, and they consume a full plant-based diet. Then you're looking at a lacto-vegetarian who consumes all your vegetables, all your plant-based foods, but don't consume any other animal products with the exception of milk. And then you get ovo-vegetarians who are similar to your lacto-vegetarians, but they don't consume any other animal products, including dairy, but they do consume eggs. And then you get a lacto-ovo-vegetarian, which I am, where you consume dairy products and eggs, and then plant-based products. And then you get the flexitarian. And so your flexitarian is just consuming, as I said, a few days of vegetarian meals and vegetarian foods, and they, eat it occasionally. So how to get started or what to look for? I think finding plant-based proteins that you enjoy. I think everyone knows what vegetables and fruits they like and dislike. They know what starches, whether it's potatoes, rice, whatever it is that they enjoy consuming. But I think it's the proteins that people often struggle with and the taste of these products. So you'll see that in the market, there are so many plant-based alternatives available now. And with the way I want to say the world is westernizing a little bit, there's a lot more processed foods. So I think a really great way to really start is to start at the proteins, because a lot of people kind of struggle with taste and finding options there. And looking at the things that you can do with stuff like your pulses, like your legumes, your beans, your peas, looking at your nuts and seeds and how to incorporate that a bit more. If you want to consume eggs, see how you can consume eggs in different ways. And then also like your stuff like tofu, which I know isn't very traditionally a South African or African protein, but so it's actually more Asian. It's more readily available within the South African market and African market now.
All right, Talia, let's take a break. We'll come back and continue to unpack how we can go into a more vegetarian lifestyle. But also, I want to look at a recipe. So if you could just think of a nice, quick, easy recipe that we can explore that's both going to be nutritious and tasty, because we want this food to look good. I think a lot of people struggle with that. If I go vegetarian, is my food going to be delicious or not? So maybe we can wrap up our conversations today with that beautiful recipe. It's 11:20 Central Africa time. We're chatting to Talia Pillay, vegetarian and registered dietitian.
We are on OpenView's audio bouquet. Channel 628. Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Over 35 organizations are expected to converge at the Union buildings in Pretoria over illegal immigrants in South Africa. They say South Africa is facing a myriad of challenges and that foreign nationals are worsening the situation. Yes, Khotato, just take us through the main aims of the march, what you're hoping to get from them.
So we are basically saying to the President of the Republic of South Africa, illegal immigration is a pandemic. Implement the laws. It's not that we don't have these laws. How many people are being human trafficked? How many people are being hijacked? Our schools are full. Our hospitals are full. And it's almost as if we're carrying the burdens of the entire Africa at the expense of South Africans. And we are basically saying enough is enough. We want the President of the Republic of South Africa to meet us at the Union building. We've submitted letters to say that we are coming on this day. We want to meet with him there to give him this mandate, because clearly he has failed citizens. He's failed South Africans by failing to implement the law. That's the most important thing. We are going to give you a mandate. We, the people, shall govern.
Africa Update with Lulu Kabu on Channel Africa every weekday from 12 to 2 p.m. Benjamin Mushatama and Palisatawo on the move.
It's 11:22 Central African time. We're hanging out with vegetarian and registered dietitian Talia Pillay for our fitness and nutrition feature that comes every Monday to you, making sure that we're eating healthy and that our plates look really good and are good for us. There's no doubt that cardiovascular diseases particularly are prone to those of us who are big meat eaters because of those saturated fats in there. We know also at times we have such meaty diets, but you think you're eating meat, but you're eating something that's probably processed. I know on the African continent we like a lovely slaughter, so like red meat is very, very big, but there is a huge relationship between eating meat and cardiovascular disease. So most people, because of health decisions, they're moving away from this and trying to eat more vegetarian-based meals. Talia, there's a big misconception in our communities as time goes, and I've heard people saying, Talia, that vegetables are getting more and more expensive. Vegetable-based plates are more costly. Should we be debunking that, or is it a truth?
So, Benjamin, I think with the economy and the way life goes, I think cost of living is just increasing in general. But eating healthy, I always say, are you willing to pay? You're going to pay a price some way or another. Are you willing to pay in the form of your health, or are you willing to make a plan and sort of pay for it out of your pocket? I definitely think that eating healthy can be very cost affordable. There's so many different ways to eat more healthily and fill up our plate with veggies, whether it is a garden, a small garden the size of a bathtub is enough to feed a family for a month, and knowing what vegetables to plant at what point of the year really will help you to increase your harvest. And then also using your frozen vegetables really helps a lot, and minimizing waste. If you're buying fresh vegetables, don't throw it away because it's starting to spoil. If you know you're only going to use a certain amount, then prep it and freeze it, and you can take it out to use at any given point. So no, getting enough fiber in and consuming and eating healthily can actually be very cost effective.
Yeah, I'm not there yet because I've got some cardiovascular issues as well, and I have to change my diet. So I've tried to actually even go very much a little bit more meatless at times. But what I've noticed is that there's also alternatives that we never thought that we could have. Sometimes you can juice vegetables. At times that you can actually make a nice broth, or there's a soup that you can make. And some of those things can actually be long term during the week. If you put them in your fridge, you can put a nice soup in your fridge and you can alternate it with certain other meals. And those alternatives are also something that are great in terms of methods where you can have actually food that actually stays longer in your week.
Yes, for sure. With vegetables, they add so much of bulk and fullness, and it also allows you to increase your fiber consumption for the week. And as a South African population, we don't consume nearly enough fiber that we should. And when we actually prepare this, I love the method that you're taking, Benjamin, because when you prepare your meals, you're more likely to actually stay consistent and eat healthily because you're creating that convenience. And the reason we often levitate towards unhealthier foods is because of the convenience factor of it, because it's there and it's available, but you're actually creating that convenience for yourself, and you're increasing your fiber content, which is fantastic because you're preventing so many other, chronic diseases that could come on by not consuming enough fiber, cardiovascular, diabetes, and it even helps to actually decrease your risk of colorectal cancer as well.
Mm-hmm. And let's talk a little bit about the fruit question, because sugars are also part of the reason why people kind of stay away from, fast foods, But there is a new thing that's coming out now and saying that whether you drink natural sugars, that's also problematic. What should we be watching out there when it comes to our fruits?
So I know this is such a common question that we get as dietitians. And so what's important to remember when it comes to your fruit, yes, there is naturally occurring sugars, but we have guidelines for how much added sugar that we should be consuming in a day. And it's actually not that much. And many of us actually exceed that in a day. When it comes to your fruit, they don't just provide your natural sugars. And our body does need natural sugar. Your body needs some form of sugar to actually function and provide energy into your cells. So besides the natural sugars that you get out of your fruit, you're also getting a lot of your vitamins and minerals. You're getting fiber intake from there. And so often we focus on the fats, the carbs, and the proteins, which is our macronutrients, that we forget that we don't actually consume enough micronutrients. And so it's so important in providing our vitamin C's, our antioxidants, and all our micronutrients that we do need. I mean, often people take multivitamins, but they're not consuming enough fruit and vegetables in their diet, which can provide this to them more naturally.
Yeah, I love that advice. Okay, let's find this recipe that Palisa is talking about. Any cool recipe that is simple that you can just give us a hint on starting to be vegetarian? I'm sure it's going to be something really yummy.
So my favorite one, because I was never always a vegetarian, but my favorite one was a plant-based cottage pie. So basically, it's super high in fiber. It's really hearty and warm, especially now in our winter months. So basically, you boil your potatoes, make a mash. I then like to make the mash a little bit creamier, and because I do consume milk, I do use a little bit of milk to mash the potatoes and make it a bit creamier. And then for the protein component of it, I then use some lentils, like legumes, and I do some chopped up veg, like your carrots and your peppers, and you can add really any vegetables you want to it, but I love to prepare it with just a little bit of oil, just a small amount of oil.
Sure.
Cook up your onions and add your spices in, your herbs, your chili, your your masalas, things that really flavor your food, and you can use
masala. That sounds yummy.
Yeah, and then you cook it up. And then you layer it. You add your lentil, your lentil mix down. You place your mashed potatoes on top, and just for some extra taste, I love to add a bit of cheese on top and pop it into the oven until the cheese melts. It is such a high fiber filling dish. And if you season it correctly, using your natural herbs and spices, using your masalas, using you can use a bit of stock powder as well.
Okay.
It really makes the dish so tasty and hearty.
Oh, thank you so much, Talia. That sounds yummy. Can we
I'm gonna
join you
try
next
that.
time? We're coming to your house, right?
Sure, no problem. Whenever you guys want, just let me know, and
Yeah.
I will prepare a whole spread.
No, we're gonna gate crash that lunch that you're gonna have very soon.
Also, I
So
can convert you and Palisa.
come on, let's do it. All right, thank you so much, Talia. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. It was lovely to be here and to share the journey of vegetarianism. And hopefully we've converted a few people to be flexitarian.
Yeah, I love the fact that we can be flexitarian, and sometimes we think it's just just go veggies all the way. And I love the fact that you gave us subcategories of vegetarianism. So thank you for joining us. That's Talia Pillay,
Awesome.
vegetarian and registered dietitian, taking us to 11:31 Central African time. Hey, we've got Fikile Lingwati standing by. He's gonna wrap up things when it comes to our sports for the morning.